Hello and welcome to the Justus Express. My name is Justus, and today we have a very special guest, Dani. Welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time. So I know that you're a tattoo artist. I was wondering if you could briefly tell me about that.
Okay. So it's pretty much a really long story. So I wanted to do a couple other things other than being a tattoo artist. I did say that I always wanted to be an artist because, like I always loved artwork. I always caught myself, drawing in my free time. That was kind of like my serenity thing. Was I was always hiding myself in my bedroom just drawing to get away from everything. But I wanted to do a couple other things. Like I wanted to join the military, and then I wanted to be a vet for exotic animals, and that didn't necessarily work out in my favor. So I was serving for a little, like a few years, and that's actually where I met you at, was serving at one of my jobs.
I remember that.
Yeah, so a few years later, I want to say about 4 years later, I was serving at a restaurant in Pensacola where I'm at now, and the managers of that said restaurant was also the managers of a tattoo shop. Well, the owners. Um, and so they were like, "Hey, like I want you to come apprentice for me. Like I see you drawing all the time. Like, would you be interested in like being an apprentice?" And I was like, "Of course, like I've always wanted to do that." So I kind of just hopped on that, and then started I started there about 2.5, almost 3 years ago, and then now I'm here, and I'm a full-fledged tattoo artist, so that's pretty exciting.
That's awesome. I've seen a lot of your work. I love it. It's like I'm really picky when it comes to stuff because if I ever get a tattoo, I want it to be something good. Like I'm like fearful of regretting like what I get put on me. What's your favorite tattoo you've ever given?
Um, I get asked that a lot. That's a hard one to say. Um, I should have thought about this before. uh,
We can cycle back around to that question if you'd like. We can leave that and come back around.
oh, I no, I got it. Okay, so there's a specific style. It's called neo-traditional. It's kind of like a lot of the work that I have on myself. It's the style that I personally love to do. So there's like American traditional, which is like the sailor type stuff, and then black and gray realism. So neo-traditional is kind of like a more modern version of American traditional. But so it was basically two mushrooms, and the stem of the mushrooms came down and it branched off into like jellyfish tentacles, and so it was like mushroom jellyfish. Like it was really cool. But yeah,
That sounds really cool.
that was probably my favorite piece that I've done on someone.
That sounds amazing. Do you have pictures of that somewhere?
I do, yeah, on my Instagram and on my Facebook. I do have pictures of that. So
I'm gonna have to look at that personally because that sounds really cool. I've always really loved jellyfish too. So,
yeah, it's pretty cool. So
what's the most difficult tattoo that you've ever given?
I'm not gonna say any names or anything, but he was a Marine. It was on his rib cage. It was basically something that his mother had drew for him. It was like an anchor with like her little signature going on the side of it, and it said like "I love you," like mom or something. Um, so it was on his ribs, and the ribs is a very difficult place to tattoo, only because of the fact of how stretchy it is. So a tattoo that is this big normally, would be twice that size on the ribs because just how much it stretches. So, and it's also very sensitive right there. There's a lot of nerves, and like your rib cage up underneath it, so it's very bony normally. So it's kind of just a difficult spot to tattoo at. And I was tattooing him, and he would not stop moving at all. And like it's like I couldn't even pull a straight line on him. And that's also kind of the worst tattoo that I've ever done, because I even went to my boss and I was like, "Hey," I was like, "I cannot pull a straight line on this guy. He keeps moving. I am messing up this tattoo. Like, I don't want to give somebody a tattoo, but I just can't tattoo him." And then my boss was like, "All right, well, I'll come over, and I'll help." And, like I'll hop on it. And so he did, and he jumped in there too. And he finished the rest of it, but he was like, I couldn't even pull a straight line on there. So it was bad even for him. And he's been doing it for like 20 plus years, and he couldn't even get it to where it was Right. So yeah, that's probably the most difficult one.
I did an interview with another tattoo artist, and I asked them. I said, "What's one of the worst things that a customer can do?" And they said like a customer moving. And I asked him why. He said, "You ever try to draw on a piece of paper that's moving?" And he goes, "That's why."
Yep. Oh
So,
yeah.
kind of like leading into this question is a great transition. What's the worst thing a customer can do while receiving a tattoo? Is it moving, or is there something else?
Yeah, I'm gonna say moving and or like screaming, crying. Yeah.
Do you get a lot of people who scream and cry?
Well, I've had one that has done it, but a few in my shop. There was actually a girl the other day in my shop, and she was screaming. It was bad. You would think that we were in a labor and delivery room, if you could imagine. It was pretty bad. Yeah, it was bad.
That sounds bad. That sounds bad. What's your favorite part of like giving tattoos? Like what's your favorite part of this work?
Giving people something that they love for the rest of their life. That's probably my favorite, is making, because whenever I was younger and everybody, like during high school, everybody would be like, hey, I want you to draw me like this, whatever, or I want you to paint me this. And, like I would make it for them, and just seeing how happy it would make them kind of also made me want to be a tattoo artist as well. That's another reason. But yeah, just seeing how happy I make people with what it is that I give them based off of what they wanted. It just did. I think that's like probably the best part of it. So,
What's the like best experience you've had giving someone a tattoo that they wanted?
hmm, let's see. I had this guy. He got up after I gave it to him, and he was kind of like, he wasn't really like talkative that much during the whole or the whole time that I was tattooing him. So I didn't really necessarily think that he would like it, or be like excited or anything. But then like whenever he got up and he went and he was like checking it out in the mirror, he like got really like excited, and he was like, "Oh my god, like I love this so much. Thank you. You did like amazing, blah blah blah." And he ran up and he like gave me a hug and everything, and told me how much it meant to him, and that was nice. So that was probably one of the best reactions that I've gotten.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So do you have has it does is there anyone out there who has like a Danny original tattoo, like something that you drew and put on them?
Yeah, a majority of everyone that I have tattooed, I custom draw up all of the work for them. So what happens is they will come in and they'll be like, "Hey," or they will message me and be like, "Hey, I want to get like a tattoo like this done," and I'll have them send me some reference pictures, so I can get an idea of what it is that they want, and then I'll change it up a little bit, and then but keep it the same concept of what they were wanting, basically, so that everybody gets a custom piece, and I'm not, stealing anybody's work, or just copying somebody else's tattoo that they already have. So pretty much everybody that yeah, everybody that I've tattooed has pretty much gotten custom pieces.
And like how long would you say you've been drawing like in your life?
I'm gonna say since I was like, I'm gonna say about 5. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I've been drawing for a lot. I've had a lot of artists in my family. So my cousin, he's an artist. He actually moved himself out to the Netherlands. So he will make like the digital artwork for. Do you know the game Dungeons and Dragons D&D?
Yes.
Okay, so the characters that you have in that, you basically make your own characters out of it. So he will take those characters that you made and he'll bring them to life for you, and will like make actual like designs based off of those characters. Like there's a couple, he actually has made book covers that are now in like bookstores for different like fantasy like books and stuff. So that's pretty cool. And then I have painters and everything. Like my uncle, he was a painter before he passed away. So it all I've had a lot of artists in my family.
You recently attended the New Orleans Tattoo Arts Festival. How would you describe your time at this event?
It was crazy. It was crazy. There was so many different things to see. It was amazing. There was so do you know the show Ink Masters?
Actually, yeah, I know of it. I haven't seen a lot of it, but I know what you're talking about.
Okay, so basically it's this show about tattoo artists where they'll come onto the show, they'll tattoo very difficult things. And then basically whoever has the best tattoo like wins. And then it's like a big competition where they have to do multiple different things. And then at the end of it all, there's one final person, that's left that ends up winning this big old prize or whatever. But anyways, so it's some of the best tattoo artists that's in America that are on this show, and some of them were at this convention, which was really cool. I got to meet some of them, and that was pretty awesome. But just seeing the bunch of different art styles and artists, like there was some people there that were doing some huge color pieces that were like realistic like color pieces of like portraits of people, and like it was insane. But yeah, it was pretty amazing. And then they had like side shows where they'll have like the people from like the circus or whatever, they'll come and do a bunch of different side shows where there was this guy, well, it was actually this guy and his husband, and yeah, and his wife that, ooh, sorry, it just thundered. I'm sorry. Anyway, so it's a husband and a wife, and they're known as the most disgusting people on the planet, I believe is that's what their name is. They actually were on America's Got Talent, and they got called that because of their act that they do. So they'll take bricks in a bucket, and they'll have like two strings coming up with hooks on them. They'll attach them to the inside of their eyelids and will pick them up with just their eyelids, or they'll do like sword swallowing and different things. It's crazy. But yeah, so they were there as well. They performed, and then I don't know if I can say this or not, but they had human suspension, which is where sounds exactly it is exactly what it sounds like. They will take a person, and then they will take hooks, like giant fishing hooks, and they'll pierce the person, say like on the back of their shoulders, and then they will hang them from the ceiling, and they'll like spin them around in the air and suspend them in the air, and they'll do a bunch of tricks and everything while they're up there. And it was pretty cool. It was definitely interesting. But
Wow, I'm speechless. I didn't even know that that was a thing until now.
yeah, it's crazy. I have some videos of it actually on my Facebook. um it's on there.
Okay. All right then. I will. I'm gonna have to look at it now. I have to look at it now because we're talking about it on the podcast. It now pertains to my work. I must look into this. Um, your quote is saying, "As a tattooer, I tell people all the time, just trust the process." So, what do you mean by this, and how does it apply to you personally?
Okay, so just trust the process. That's like, okay, so sometimes a stencil will kind of smear a little bit, or it'll get kind of like bloodied out, if that makes sense. Like it'll like bleed out. So you can't, it looks very messy. And then say if you're doing like a realistic piece or like a color piece, and you'll have on this stencil, you'll have like little line marks that are like guide marks to kind of tell you where the next color is supposed to be at, or where your shading is supposed to go up to, or your light sources are supposed to hit at. So it's kind of like, guide marks and references to make sure that you get the tattoo done the proper way that it's supposed to be. And it looks a little crazy on the stencil sometimes, so I always tell people, like, just trust the process. Like it's gonna look good in the end. Just trust it. And then, and then the line work will come along, and it looks a little crazy just seeing just line work. If you hear raining, I'm sorry, it just started absolutely pouring down rain.
No, you're fine. You're fine. The way the phones work, they tune to the frequency of your voice. So for the most part, that's all not really going to show up.
Awesome. Okay, yeah, that works.
That works. I like that.
But yeah,
Well, I'm actually, if I can, actually kind of like what you're talking about there, because believe it or not, I pulled that quote from your Facebook timeline. You made a post back in July, and you were kind of talking about. I won't read the whole thing because obviously that's a personal post, but right here at the end, you wrote, "I need to just trust the process, and even though it's crushing me, I just need to remember I will be made into something new and beautiful." So I was wondering if you could maybe elaborate upon that a little bit.
okay, so basically, I had seen like a video, and it was talking about how there is a Bible verse that basically, in this like story in the Bible, there was I can't remember who it was about, but anyways, there's this guy, and he was making like different like clay pots. and he said that he didn't like the way that the clay pot was turning out, and so he crushed it into a bunch of little pieces, and then he crushed it down more into like tiny little fragments, and then he started over and he made something beautiful out of it. So to me personally, that just kind of like resonated a little bit, because I was like, even though there's a lot of stuff that's going on in life, that it may seem like everything is like the lowest that it can get, like it can't get worse than this. Like I just have to remind myself that it's all happening for a reason, and that I will eventually get to where it is that I want to be, and I'll be better, and I'll be, like made into something more beautiful, than all this craziness that's going on now. So it just kind of helps like keep me motivated a little bit.
I love it. It's a great quote. And I really loved when I read the post. The post kind of spoke to me a little bit, and I was just kind of curious as to kind of where it was coming from, kind of the mindset there, the perspective. I love that. How would you describe your general process as an artist?
My general process as an artist, can you
So like for your art, like what would you say is kind of like a lot, where is you draw a lot of your inspiration for your art from? And like what would you say is kind of like beginning to end, kind of mentally where you start and then physically where you finish?
Okay. So normally I will um it's normally just like random ideas that I have in my head that just kind of I'll just randomly think about something, and I'm like, that'll be like that would be really cool as like a tattoo. Like I could see something like I don't know, like a plant or something, like a flower, and I'm like, you know what, that would be really cool as like as a tattoo. And then like I'll take different things. Like I like doing like skulls. To me, I think that, different skulls are like really beautiful. It symbolizes, life and then death and everything. So I think that that's a really kind of beautiful thing to me. But so I'll take like, different references of the flowers and then different like skulls or whatever. And then like I'll just kind of put them together, and I'll make I'll make an image out of it, or I'll make a, like a tattoo out of it, and that's kind of it. I'll post it up and I'll see if anybody wants it, and then fingers crossed somebody likes what I, likes my ideas and likes how my brain works, and then they'll come in and get it. So
What's your favorite tattoo that you have on you?
you said what's my favorite tattoo?
That you have personally, yeah.
Hmm. Um, I'm gonna say either my neck, which is a great horned owl. Um,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's either gonna be that, or it's going to be what I have on my hand, which is kind of a little sentimental. It is angel wings with a date and a little quote beside it that says "Wait for me in the sky."
Wow.
Yeah, it's so kind of personal a little bit, but I ended up I got pregnant whenever I was 16. Um, and I personally, I never wanted kids. I was always scared of it. I always wanted to adopt kids, because to me, like, there's so many people that are out there that just can't take care of their kids and like give them up for adoption. And, and I'm like, well, why would I sit here and have kids of my own whenever there's, like kids out there that deserve like a happy home and like a loving home that will take them in and love them as my own, So I always wanted to do that, but I ended up getting pregnant whenever I was 16. And a lot of crazy stuff happened, and I ended up miscarrying with it a couple weeks before I turned 17. So that's what that tattoo represents. I have it purple because I didn't know if it was a boy or a girl yet. So, the mix of the two colors is purple. So I got it. It's that with the date that I lost it, and then the wait for me in the sky, because, to me, I believe that, whenever I finally do like die and everything, that I will, be reunited with my baby that I lost in heaven. So
That's beautiful. That's absolutely, it's kind of heartbreaking, and I hate you talking about you dying, but it's a beautiful, beautiful sentiment. I really love it. We're gonna keep talking about you and kind of your life and stuff like that right after this next intermission. Okay, thank you so much for telling me all that.
you're welcome.
Welcome back to the Justus Express. How are you doing?
Doing good.
We were just talking about how you had to endure a rainstorm.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It as I was out there, loud thunder that I think I have ever heard in my entire life happen, and it scared everything. I had to watch myself for a second. It scared everything.
Hey, you can say whatever you want. I told you could say whatever you want. I'm all about free speech.
I'm just trying to be respectful. But yeah, it was pretty bad, and everything was like super gray, like you couldn't see anything. The rain was blowing sideways because of how bad it was storming. It was
Wow, you were gonna get blown away during the middle of the interview. That would have been something.
yeah, that was bad, but I made it, so I'm okay.
I'm glad you're safe and inside now. That's all that matters. That's the priority.
Yes.
So, from your Facebook timeline, it seems you have a variety of pets, including rabbits, dogs, a bird, and a lizard. So I don't know if that's fully accurate, but could you tell me about your pets and why you have such a variety?
Okay. So, all right. So this comes back to the couple things that I wanted to be before I was a tattoo artist. I have always had a deep love for animals. I was always that one little kid that would go outside and go find random like little lizards and geckos and bring them back inside and try to keep them in the plants for pets. I actually did that once. I found one of the little green geckos outside. And whenever I was about 5, I trained him. His name was Hoppy, but I trained him. And he would come to me every time that I would call to him. So I would go put him on one side of the yard, sit him down. I would tell him to stay there. I'd go to the other side of the yard. I'd hold my hand out and be like, all right, come here, Hoppy. And he would run all the way across the yard and come and get back in my hand. And he lived in my grandmother's greenhouse little like plant room thing that we had at the house. So yeah, so that kind of built my love for animals. And then I wanted to be a vet for exotic animals before I was a tattoo artist, but I never was able to graduate. So I did that, that couldn't happen. I couldn't go to college to be able to do that. So that was kind of out of the picture. So whenever I grew up after being told, no, like you can't have this animal or no, you can't have that animal. Well, now that I'm making my own money, now that I have my own house, now I have to be like, okay, well, I can get this animal. And now, like I can do it. So I'm going to do it. And I bought my bird, which he's a cockatiel. So I got him, and then I got rehomed a snake from one of my friends who was rehoming her. And then I went into the store to go get food for them one day and seen that there was a rabbit that was there that needed to be rehomed, and I was like, well, I'm already here, so I might as well take him. I will love him. So I took him. But yeah, and then it just kind of started from there. And at that time, I had 3 animals, and now I have 12 or 13 different ones. Yeah, I have a lot. So instead of having one bird, I now have 3. I have my original cockatiel. I have a black cap conure. And then I also have an Indian ringneck. So those are my 3 birds. I have a hedgehog. I have 2 lizards. I have a crested gecko and a leopard gecko. I have 2 dogs. I have an American Akita and then a German Shepherd Lab mix.
What's an American Akita? Is that a dog?
Yes, he's a dog. He's a very big dog. I actually have him with me if you would like to see him. He's very, very big.
Yeah, sure.
Very big boy. Oh, he's laying in the stuff right now. Haku, come here. Come here. Oh, say hello. Oh my goodness, big boy. Yeah, he's really big. He kind of looks. Ignore the mess. I'm sorry, but he kind of looks like a German Shepherd, except he has a very curly tail, kind of like a chow. But yeah, he is absolutely massive. He is only 8 months old, and he's already over 100 pounds. And if he stands up, he is taller than I am. Like if he stands up on his back legs, he's taller than I am. So he is huge.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't have my other animals with me at the moment. Are you gonna come up here? Come on. Now he is gonna be with us. But yes, so I don't have any of my other animals with me, but I also have a spider as well. I have a jumping spider, and then I have 2 snakes. And okay, I have 2 snakes and 2 rabbits as well. My original rabbit that I had ended up passing away, about last month. And yeah, sad story. But, so he ended up passing away sadly, and, I just so happened to get a message from somebody who was like, "Hey, I'm rehoming, these 2 baby bunnies. Do you want them? I just seen, like, your rabbit passed away." I was like, "Alright, it's a sign. I need them." So, I went and I got them, and yeah. And then I also have a frog and a fish too. So,
So is that all of them? Does that?
I think so. I think that's all of them. I have I have lots, like, I lose track whenever I'm counting them sometimes, but yes, I believe that's it.
So you feed all of them on a daily basis and everything?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have my whole morning routine with them, and, like, I always have to keep fresh veggies and fruits in the house because that's what I give them daily, along with, their seeds and their hay pellets, and then their actual hay that they eat, and, along with different bugs as, like, mealworms and crickets and everything, and, like, different hornworms and stuff for, like, the reptiles, and frozen mice and frozen rats for the snakes and everything. So I always have a lot of food for them. So,
A lot of animal food stored away.
oh yes.
What would you say kind of the dynamic is like between all the pets? I mean,
What do you mean?
how would you describe that environment? Because I mean, you have snakes, spiders, lizards, dogs, birds.
Well, it's very hectic. It is very crazy. You as soon as you were walking up, like, you can be outside my house and you're walking up to my front door, and you just automatically start hearing, like, birds chirping, and so as soon as you walk into the door, it's automatic. They're just right there. And then in the mornings, I have a alarm clock, that's not on my phone. It's not on anything. It is my birds. They wake me up every morning at 7 o'clock exactly. Even on my off days, I have to wake up at 7 because they will start catcalling and will start chirping and will not stop until I come in there and get them. So yeah, it's very hectic. It's kind of noisy, and then, like, you have the dogs running around playing, and then I let them free roam. I do have them in my bedroom now for certain reasons, that I have learned from my last rabbit that just passed away, mixing with the dogs, if you can.
I think I can follow that train of thought pretty easily.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's why I said very, very sad story. But yes, yeah. So I don't let my rabbits run around out in the living room anymore with the dogs out. I let them kind of, do their own thing in the bedroom. They free roam in there, and then they have their own little, like, cage area that is, like, kind of bigger. It takes up a majority of, like, half of my room. So they also have space in there to run around at. So it's not like they're locked up in, like, a really small cage or anything. They have their room. I kind of spoiled all of my animals. So they have, you know, their little areas. But yeah, it's very hectic. Feeding time is pretty hectic as well with the reptiles and everything. It's not as bad with them because they don't eat as often. They only eat, like, every other day, to with the snakes every week. And then the biggest snake that I have, he is 6 foot. That's my boa, and he eats once every month. So it's not as hectic with them. But with the birds, it's pretty hectic with them. But I have a little routine with them, so I've been doing that for, like, the last year and a half that I've had all of them. So it's just become normal at this point.
That's wow. That sounds like a lot.
It is. It is very much so. It is, but
So I'm gonna ask you one political question, and then if you don't want to answer it, you don't have to. If you do answer it, we'll immediately veer away after you answer. But I've been asking this to kind of everyone, just kind of getting a general idea of what people think in the country right now, just kind of spread out. What are your thoughts on the attempted assassination of Donald Trump?
um ugh. So I'm not necessarily the biggest on, like, politics and everything. I Um, I don't really have any I really don't have any thoughts on it. I mean, it happened. He's not the first president to almost, get shot. So I didn't really, think anything of it. But also The Simpsons kind of predicted it, in a way. So I also wasn't very shocked whenever it happened. I figured that something like that was coming for him. But um yeah, I wouldn't really say that I have any thoughts on it necessarily. I mean, I'm not really the biggest fan, but I'm not also not a fan of
Yeah.
him. You know what I mean? So like I'm glad he didn't die. Congratulations, but I don't know. I don't really have any like major thoughts on that.
That's totally fine. I was just kind of curious. It's a big event, and a lot of people have a lot to say, and some people have more than others.
Yep.
You're quoted in your Facebook bio as saying, "Love is not about possession, it's about appreciation." So, what do you mean by this?
Okay, so it's actually this quote that I it's my favorite quote ever. I forget who it's by. But basically the quote is, if you love a flower, don't pick it, because if you pick it, it ceases to become what you love and dies. Love is not about possession, love is about appreciation. So to me, I take that into everything, like relationship wise, or just like materialistic things wise, like, with like life outside. Like if I love something, I would much rather love it in its natural state, than picking it and then it dying, just because the fact that I have it. So, like let it be free, let it be who it is, and then appreciate it for what it is and love it for what it is. And don't try to be greedy, and don't try to possess it, or else you will end up losing initially what it is that you love, because it dies because you possess it. You know what I mean? And then kind of the same thing with relationships. Like if you love a person, that's why you get into a relationship with them. You love them for who they are. And if you try to possess them, and try to change them and stop them from being that person that you initially fell in love with, then what's the point? You know what I mean? Like you're changing who it is that you fell in love with just because the fact that you want to possess them. Like, so I don't know. I just feel like it's all about appreciating the other person, instead of trying to possess them and trying to change them. So I just kind of keep that throughout my day-to-day life. So
What would you say is kind of the biggest, what would you say, like, is the biggest lesson you've learned through applying that to your life?
biggest lesson that I've learned. Um I wouldn't I don't know if you would call it a lesson, but it helped a lot. And like again, in relationship wise, and it just helped me see like the beauty in things, just like kind of leaving them be, instead of trying to change it for my own personal like desires or whatever. Like where that be as like I want to, keep a thing of flowers because they're pretty and I want them inside my house, just like let them grow, and if you let them grow, then they will continue to come back, even though they might die for a couple weeks, they'll come back, you know what I mean? And then you'll get to love them again. And so I think that just the appreciation that I have for it, and the change of mindset that it gave me, I think would be the biggest lesson that I've had.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Um, Last question here. If you could be heard and understood by all people of the world simultaneously, what would you say?
Oh, wow. Wow, that's a deep question.
Thank you, I guess.
You're welcome. Yeah, that I have wow, I don't really know how to answer that one. I've never really thought about that. Um, hmm, I don't think I know how to answer that.
That's okay. You don't have to answer it.
I don't think I know how to answer that one.
That's okay.
It's just like I don't know, I'm not really used to being like heard like that. So I don't know, I'm just kind of used to kind of being myself, or being to myself. So I don't really know what I would say if I was put into that situation.
Oh, Well, that's sad. Well, how about this? I don't know if you want, would you like to come onto the podcast again later in the future? Like we can schedule it at a convenient time for both of us?
Yeah, I'm so down for that.
Okay, so why don't you how about you take that question with you when you leave this podcast?
Okay.
And we'll bring it back to that podcast and you can answer it then. How's that sound?
I can do that.
Sounds like a plan. It sounds like a plan. Do you have any like social media or anything like that you'd like people to follow you on so you can generate awareness?
Yeah, I do. I actually have my Instagram. That is where I post all of my updates on my tattooing and everything, and then any sort of flash art or any deals that I have or any like open availabilities or anything that I have like that. That's where all of that is posted on. And then again with like if I travel for conventions or anything like that, that's where all of that is posted on, is on my Instagram.
All right. And what is your Instagram handle so that people know?
It is at tattoos_by_Max. And that is all lowercase, all one word, no space. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed the conversation that we had. Really, really great time.
Yeah, it was nice.
Do you have anything you want to say to our audience before we go?
No, no, I don't think so. Thank you.
Got it. Understood. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the Justus Express. And to our audience, thank you so much for watching the Justus Express. And I hope that you're thinking about Dani's train of thought.